I used to literally just walk past the fridge and instantly a craving would hit. It was just that muscle memory of grabbing the fridge door and opening up the fridge. In fact, I didn't even have to go to the fridge. If I just walked past the kitchen, a trigger would hit, a craving would come over me. And it was really just muscle memory, remembering that the old me, the drinking me, used to grab a drink every single time I went into the kitchen pretty much. My drink of choice was beer, wine, and seltzer, so I kept my drinks in the fridge. And it was just so easy and so convenient for me to just open the fridge, grab one, crack into it. It was like the thought would pop into my mind that, hey, I want a drink, or I feel like having a drink, and I would just immediately satisfy that need. The impulse control was negative a million. I had no impulse control whatsoever. And that's a big part of what we're going to be talking about today with controlling our impulses and managing these cravings that come on, because they will come on. It's not like you drink every single day and then just randomly stop and all your interest and thoughts about alcohol just go away. No, they continue, unfortunately, and it takes some serious unlearning to get used to life and sobriety. So let's jump right into today's episode. So cravings and triggers, let's talk about them. Cravings, I feel like, will happen when you emotionally want alcohol. Maybe you're feeling the social pressure at a birthday party or something like that. Maybe something sad happens or something aggravates you and you think like, I would want to cure this feeling with an alcoholic beverage. And a trigger is something in my mind that is like often very random that makes you think about alcohol. Like I said, walking past the kitchen would make me think about alcohol. It could be the most random of things, taking a shower or going to the doctor. I remember I used to drink to calm my nerves, and I drank before my doctor's appointment. At the height of my drinking problem, I was also battling a knee injury. So I was in the doctor's office all the time for physical therapy, checkups, like x-rays, MRIs, all sorts of stuff. And I drank before pretty much every single one of those appointments because of the nerve of it all. And also just like I was hating my life. I didn't want to be going to these appointments. And I thought, let me just make it more fun. And so even now, over 600 days sober, when I go into a doctor's office, my brain thinks about alcohol. Those two things are just linked in my mind. So what I'm saying is that triggers can literally be the most random of things. It happens a lot with food and drink pairings for me. Like if I have some pretzels, I think about how I used to pair pretzels with Coors Lights. Or when I'm having cheese, like charcuterie, I sometimes think about red wine. And they just happen against your control. You'll feel this feeling inside you that's like a really weird just connection to alcohol. I'm sure we've all heard that smell is one of the most like memory inducing senses. And so sometimes we could be out and about walking around and we smell something and just this memory comes over us like so intensely. And I feel like that's kind of how it is with triggers for alcohol. And let's be real, these triggers are bound to happen. They're going to happen. Our brain just remembers. It's like certain things in life are just connected to alcohol. And so naturally, alcohol is going to enter our brains. And like I said, I view triggers and cravings differently. I think cravings are more of like an emotional thing. Like we desire the effects of alcohol, where triggers are these uncontrollable connections between random things that happen in our life and alcohol, if that makes any sense. So at least for the purpose of this video, I'm going to separate those two things. So let's start with cravings, when we emotionally want to experience the effects of alcohol. I feel like this happened a lot for me when something frustrating happened, because alcohol was often a stress reducer. It was like the first thing I thought of when something bad happened, or something annoyed me at work, or something didn't go my way, or anything like that. It also suppressed some of my ADHD symptoms that I had. So when my brain was going at 100 miles an hour and I'm obsessing over something or can't stop thinking about something, I can't even sit down and watch a movie because my thoughts are just going like crazy, I want the effects of alcohol, those calming effects that alcohol brings. So I feel like that is a craving in my mind when you want to experience the effects of alcohol. So how do we deal with those when they come over? Because let's be real, they're going to be coming over us. Cravings happen. When you use something literally as like medication for dealing with your life, when you completely cut your medication, life still goes on. So we still have to face our life and go through whatever life throws at us, just now we don't have our medication. So it is an adjustment for sure. But the first tip that I have is to play the tape forward. This is not an original thought. A lot of people talk about doing this, and it really is so helpful. And it kind of goes along with that impulse control thing. So let's say my boss got mad at me at work. She embarrassed me, and I was just really frustrated. And when I get home, I'm like, all I want is a drink right now to relieve the thoughts of the day and just kind of drink it away, right? So playing it forward would look like this. I would say to myself, what would it look like in the next hour if I decided to actually crack open that drink? Well, I would probably be very disappointed in myself because I broke my sobriety. I think about how I'd have to tell people that I'm sober, but I did cheat once, or I did have one drink along the way. There would always be that caveat. That would probably stop me from drinking in itself because I'm so prideful about sobriety. I don't want to have this like consolation of, oh, I drank one day. So we're playing it forward just within the next hour. I'm filled with regret. I'm filled with embarrassment of my actions. I can't believe I cracked open this drink and broke my sobriety. I'd be thinking about, do I have to start from day one again? Do I just continue my day count but have that caveat? Like all those thoughts would be going through my mind within the next hour that I would probably be so stressed I would crack into the next drink. So that's what my hour 1 and hour 2 would look like, is shame, guilt, and having more drinks, because I wouldn't just want to stop at one. I would feel that sense that alcohol brings on, and I would want more of it. I was never somebody who would just have one and be like, yeah, that's good. That would almost be torturous for me. So of course I would have another drink. So let's play the tape forward then to 4 hours from that moment. Now I'm pretty tipsy. I'm drunk. I'm saying stupid things. I'm maybe posting a crying Instagram story about how I broke my sobriety and I'm so down about it. I would think about how I'm disappointing our Facebook support group, the Scoop Troop on Facebook. I would think about my TikTok page of sobriety that I would have to like make a video about how I broke my sobriety. Oh my God. If you can't tell, there are a lot of thoughts. And so we just play the tape forward. Play it forward 1 hour. What's your life going to look like? Play your life forward 4 hours. What's your life going to look like? Play it forward to the next day. You're probably going to be feeling that shame and guilt again and crack into another drink. Maybe you'll start drinking in a more consistent manner and not just immediately go back to sobriety like sometimes our brains trick us into thinking we could do. Maybe you go down this path of drinking every single day and you get back to 15 drinks a day, and all of a sudden you're in that awful cycle that you're going to have to get out of eventually again. It's just not worth it to have that drink in that moment when you are having the craving. So that is the power of playing it forward. You think about all these situations and what would actually happen in the near future and the far distant future. And whenever I play it forward, I always feel like cracking open this drink to deal with my work frustrations is just not worth it. But the work frustrations are still there. So the really cool thing about sobriety is you learn to deal with those frustrations without the booze. Because we still have to face that frustration. It was still a really rough day at work. You feel embarrassed and you feel frustrated. And so how do we deal with it? We learn, typically in sobriety, healthier strategies like going for a walk or listening to a podcast episode or calling a friend to vent about it. There are so many healthier strategies that when I was a drinker, I would never have learned or developed, because cracking open a drink is just the quick and easy way to get through things. It's immediate, but it's hurting you. Every single time you crack into a drink, it's hurting you, and it's hurting your progress, and it's hurting you from developing as a human being. But when we cut out alcohol and that's no longer an option, we have to explore these healthier avenues of dealing with life. And we actually become better human beings in the process. And speaking of impulse control, that is a skill I didn't even know I lacked when I was a drinker. But when I first got sober, I realized I had no impulse control because I just thought to myself, oh my God, whenever I would think about having a drink, I would just have one. There was no thought. There was no playing it forward. There was no risk assessment. If I had a meeting in the later in the day, if I had to speak in front of a crowd, if I planned to go to a workout class that night, none of that mattered. I was having that drink and I didn't think about all the ways it might affect my life in the near future and the distant future. It was just, I want a drink, I'm having a drink. And another cool thing about sobriety is that you really do learn impulse control. And this doesn't just go for having drinks. It goes for everything. When someone says something rude to you and instead of like immediately snapping back and saying something you don't mean, we just learn to like hear that and process that and formulate a better response to that or a better way of dealing with what happens. And it's made me a calmer person in general. I think about like on the road with road rage and things like that. I'm like, there are so many people who are just filled with this anger and instantly getting mad for cutting someone off, and you're flipping them off and you're honking and yelling and whatever else. People who are doing that are filled with this anger and they have no impulse control. Someone cuts them off in traffic and they are instantly just, I am angry. I need to react to this. Whereas I do feel that sobriety helps with that anger management, that impulse control. We just feel what happens to us for a moment before instantly responding, if that makes sense. And that is a beautiful skill that sobriety has taught me that I didn't even know I lacked when I was a drinker. So back to our strategies for dealing with cravings. Number 1 is to play the tape forward. And number 2 is to work on your impulse control. So what does this look like? You have a craving. Let's use the work example again. Someone has really bothered you at work and maybe you work from home and you're like, oh my God, I just want to crack into a drink right now. With no impulse control, you would go crack into that drink and relieve your stress and anger immediately. And that's how you would deal with those emotions. But with impulse control, this is what happens. And this is kind of the process that I use when a craving comes on. So I take a moment to think, why do I want that drink? The thoughts in my mind that I want a drink. And then I think, why am I craving that drink? What am I trying to satisfy? Is it because my boss made me angry? Is it because I've been embarrassed in front of the rest of the company? Is it because I think I'm better than this frickin' job and I don't even like my job and I have to just drink to exist in this job? I kind of take a moment to think why that moment frustrated me so much. This could even be the moment in traffic. Okay, that's not related to alcohol, but maybe it does make you want to drink. I've definitely been in a long car ride dealing with annoying people and craved a drink the moment I got home. So maybe this is valid for drinking as well. But let's say somebody cuts you off in traffic. Instead of instantly like honking, tailgating them, cutting them off, giving them that horrible look in the window as you drive by, like all of that just all of those impulsive responses. Instead, maybe think, I wonder why they did that. Maybe they were about to miss their exit. Maybe they didn't see me. Maybe they're dealing with a lot in their life and they're an angry person and I do not need to like let that angry person affect me. That's impulse control. It's just taking a moment to like feel what's happened and think about it in a broader way. So let's talk about the craving at work. Like I said, this person said something mean, they angered you, whatever. They embarrassed you. Instead of instantly cracking open a drink or snapping at your boss or whatever your response might be, it's like we just take a second to say, why did she have to say that in front of everybody? Maybe I'll privately ask her if in future she could bring that stuff up one-on-one. And that's a more productive solution because then it won't happen again. You're going to have this conversation with her and you guys are both going to grow and it's going to be a better result than just drinking it away and then it happens again next week. You know what I mean? Maybe instead of having the drink, like I said, you go on a walk, you go to the gym, you talk to your coworker and like gossip about it for a little bit and just vent. These are all better, healthier strategies for dealing with things that happen to us, and it will create a better system moving forward. Like, what does having a drink actually do for us? We have that drink and it is like an immediate Band-Aid fix. It makes us kind of forget the stress that happened, that event that happened, but it doesn't do anything for the future. The same thing could happen the next day and you get just as stressed and it affects you just as much. There's no forward motion. There's nothing good to come of it. But when you cut out alcohol and that instant solution, that instant gratification, you actually do the deeper work and you become a better person and you start creating a better life for yourself. I think that's why people say that becoming sober has completely changed their lives, is because in every way, you are becoming a better human being because you don't have alcohol to turn to when things get hard. You actually face them, learn from them, grow from them, and become a better person with a better life overall. And I think that is so special. So dealing with cravings, we have playing the tape forward and working on impulse control, thinking about why you want that drink, what makes you crave that drink, and just being a bit more reflective and thinking about what things in life make you crave a drink or why those particular things make you crave a drink. So that kind of segues us into triggers. Let's talk about triggers. These can be people, places, events, smells, like activities. It can be anything that's small and random and you might not instantly associate it with alcohol, but for some reason your brain does. For some reason, walking by a kitchen makes you think of booze. For some reason, tying your shoes makes you think of drinks. For some reason. This could be anything, big or small. I often think about Christmas morning and how that was kind of my excuse to drink in my problematic way, but not be ashamed about it, because I would drink in the morning all the time, but I would feel so ashamed and embarrassed and I would hide it from the people around me. But on Christmas Day, I remember it's like that was my one free pass to like have a mimosa or have a fireball shot, like have a hot toddy, whatever, because it's Christmas Day. It's like the one day where I can drink in the way that I wanted to and I didn't have to feel embarrassed. So since I got sober, every Christmas since then in the morning, I think about alcohol because it reminds me of the time or that feeling that I felt where it was socially acceptable for me to drink in the morning. So even now, I've spent 2 Christmases sober, and both times I thought about alcohol in the morning, which I'm like, why? It's not like I actually want to drink, but that is just a trigger for me. Christmas morning, another trigger for me, going to the nail salon, because I used to take a to-go cup from like usually Subway because they're opaque cups, like you can't see through them. And I would fill it with White Claw or a Coors Light, and I would bring it with me to the nail salon, and I would sip on it while I'm getting my pedicure or whatever. And so now, every time I go to the nail salon, I think about booze. So triggers can be small, they can be big, and they can be the most random things that literally make no sense. So the thing with triggers is that these are actually little blessings. Triggers are all learning experiences for you. And with every trigger that you discover, with every craving that occurs throughout your life at these random times, you are building your sobriety toolbox. And if you've been around for a while, I probably sound like a broken record, but literally every trigger that you have, while it might feel really heavy and like, why am I thinking about alcohol? I hate this. It's actually so beneficial for you because with everything that happens, that nail salon, Christmas morning, now I know that I will feel triggered when I go to those places and I can prepare. So for example, on Christmas morning, instead, like, you know that you're going to have that trigger. You know that you're going to be thinking about the mimosas or the fireball shot or whatever. So instead, I bring stuff over to make a fun drink in the morning for myself. I'll bring soda water and orange juice to kind of mimic a mimosa. Or what I did this last Christmas actually is I cracked into a Diet Mountain Dew at 8 a.m. or whenever I woke up. And that feels bad. That feels like soda in the morning. Why am I drinking soda in the morning? It felt kind of like I was doing something that I shouldn't be doing. And like, that's what drinking in the morning satisfied for me. I liked feeling that I was doing something inappropriate or like secretive. I thrived on that a little bit. And having a soda in the morning kind of felt a little bad. And that's like a new strategy for me. It's like when I have these random occasions, like on Christmas morning, where I want to feel a little bad, you know what I mean? Having a soda in the morning is a healthier way than drinking alcohol and not breaking my sobriety, to have that I'm bad feeling, if you know what I mean. So now I have that skill. Do you know what I mean? I know that Christmas morning is going to be a little triggering. So I prepare. I allow myself to have the soda. I bring the fake mimosa materials, whatever. I just have learned that that's a good strategy for me. Or for the nail salon, I still bring a drink. I bring some fun soda or energy drink or, juice drink, Wild Wonder, whatever. I bring one of my favorite drinks to sip on at the salon because I used to always have a drink to sip on at the nail salon. So why not have one in sobriety? And I know that I'm going to be thinking about that. So it's really nice to just go in prepared. And that is truly what triggers give you. It gives you the ammunition, I guess, to face your life sober. And like with every trigger that happens, you are developing your toolbox, and you'll know going into those situations in the future that those are triggering for you, and you can prepare. And like, let's talk about one of my biggest triggers in the entire world, and that is the airport. And I know I'm not alone in this because so many of you have said that you share this trigger with me, the airport. Because the airport was another place where I felt like I could just drink out in the open. Like I didn't have to be embarrassed or ashamed about drinking in the morning or drinking in excess. It was like there's no time at the airport. There's no rules at the airport. So therefore there was no judgment. And also people drink to get through like flight anxiety. So I would kind of ride that a little bit and pretend that I'm nervous for my flight and like I need a shot or whatever. You can drink in the air because it's like, oh, I'm going on vacation or whatever. I used to always drink at the airport. Always. And I would even get to the airport kind of early so that I can enjoy sitting at the bar and drinking in this place where for once I felt like I wasn't going to be judged. Because that was my biggest thing, I would say, is like I always just didn't want to be discovered. I didn't want people to know that I had a drinking problem, and I would like do anything to make sure that nobody found out. But at places like the airport where you don't know anybody and it is socially acceptable to drink at any hour, I was like, oh my God, this is my chance. I just felt so free. I felt so myself. And even like sitting with the other people at the airport bar, I just felt like at home almost. It felt peaceful. It felt like those were my people. I mean, God, it was my one place where I could just be my 100% self without any judgment or, shame. And so when I got sober, every time I went to the airport, it was overwhelmingly triggering. It could almost bring tears to my eyes. Like it was really, really heavy going to the airport. And I'm somebody who loves to travel. I still obviously do love to travel. And I love even the whole airport experience still to this day. But I just remember how heavy those first few trips to the airport felt because I actually didn't even know what to do. I arrived at the airport and I did not know where to go. It was like my mind was on autopilot to the bar. I arrive at the airport, I go to this particular bar, I have that drink, I switch to this bar that's closer to my gate, I drink as much as I can until it's the last second and I have to board, and then I have one more shot, close out, and get on the plane. Like I just had my routine. And then I would already know what I'm ordering when I get on the plane, what drinks are available. It was my routine, it was my process. And so when I started going to the airport sober, I was just so confused and so thrown off. And it was really, really overwhelming and really triggering. That was the most triggering situation I've ever been in. And it's also like nobody's around. Nobody's going to know that you've broken your sobriety. You could do it in secret and no one would ever know. And that thought crossed my mind. It was just, those first few airport trips were overwhelmingly difficult, really. But I learned a new strategy. After that first time and I experienced just how triggering the airport was for me, I was like, I got to figure this out. I got to find an alternative. And so now I have a new routine at the airport. I head straight to the Hudson News, and I usually get a bottle of water, a diet soda, ideally Diet Dr. Pepper. I get one sweet thing, like one candy. Usually I get Twizzlers nibs, and I get one salty thing. I love those, I think it's called Guidel is, I am going to butcher that name, so I'm not even going to try. It's the little brown things in the Chex Mix, the really salty, like rye bread, little brown things, but they sometimes have a bag that's just the brown things, not all the other stuff that comes in the Chex Mix. So anyway, one sweet thing, one salty thing, one soda, one water. And I do that every single time I go to the airport. And I really, really look forward to it. I let myself go all out. I don't care about the chemicals that are in the candy. I don't care about the calories. I don't care about anything. I get exactly what I want. And that's become my new favorite thing. That is my new airport ritual. And I love it. I love it. So I go to the Hudson News stand, the little convenience store thing, and I get all those things, and that now excites me. I have replaced going to the bar and drinking with this other thing. And sometimes I'll crack into my snacks early before I even get on the plane, and I'll set up my little Netflix show on my suitcase, and I'll just watch it and have my snacks, and it's like a whole different kind of experience that I now really, really enjoy. So I really wouldn't even have that strategy if I didn't take a moment to realize, like, this airport situation is very triggering and I need to find a solution. And most people could just be bogged down by the weight of that triggering situation and say, like, this has been awful, this was so heavy, but not do anything about it. But we, as the Scoop Troop, we look at triggers as positive things and as learning lessons for us. So we make it through that trigger and we learn from it and we develop new strategies. That's what I did with the airport one, and it has been so, so helpful. And one more tip for triggers. We are not going to look at a trigger as like an actual opportunity to drink. Like when I walk into the nail salon and I feel that weight of like, oh, I usually would have had a drink in this situation, we just find it interesting. It's like, oh, wow, that's interesting that I would have had a drink in that situation. It's never like you're actually considering having a drink when that trigger comes on. That's absolutely not an option. And we don't even let it cross our minds as an option. It's not like, oh, that makes me think about alcohol. Should I have an alcoholic beverage? No. It's like, that made me think about alcohol. How interesting. I'm going to learn from that and develop a different strategy. Maybe next time I should bring a drink with me. Maybe I don't go to this salon because it reminds me too much of when I used to drink to get through or to enjoy the nail appointments. Like, you just learn. It's only a learning experience. It's not like alcohol is an option. It's just an interesting thing to notice. Wow, I didn't expect that this particular person or this particular situation or this particular location would make me think about alcohol. How interesting. It's not, okay, I'll give in to that and drink. It's just how interesting. And I think if we can try to look at it through that lens, I think that's really helpful. That's the motto for dealing with triggers. Interesting. I'm not going to do anything about it, but interesting that happened or that I'm thinking about having a drink. Interesting. Cool. And that's as far as it goes. So, cravings and triggers, they happen to the best of us, and they happen a lot. And I think just because of the muscle memory of things, certain situations will still surprise me as to why they remind me of drinking. It's crazy. It's the most random things. It's a smell. It's a word someone says. It's a street corner. It's a breed of dog. It is anything. It's the most random things that can make you think about alcohol. But our response is how interesting. So I hope this helped you maybe with dealing with some cravings or triggers that may happen throughout your sober journey. Feel free to come back to this video if you're ever having a craving, because they say that cravings scientifically only last 30 minutes. So if you can make it through 30 minutes and resist that urge to drink, you have won. You have succeeded and you have pushed through that craving. So I don't know exactly how long this episode is going to be, but probably right around 30 minutes. So if you get a craving, come back to this episode, listen to it again, and by the time it's over, hopefully your craving will have passed and you won't even be thinking about it anymore. So you got this. Stay strong. Love you guys, and I will see you for the next episode. Mwah.